If you really like this episode, please support our podcast by going to patreon.com/truecrimewives and get lots of great extras. On the Good Wives Guide to True Crime, we discuss crimes that some may find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised.
When Dee Dee was born, my mom said that she came along with all these sicknesses, heart murmur and stuff like that.
My mom would always make us go play outside, and it was like, oh, well, your sister's not feeling good. Your sister's got an upset stomach. She's got a headache. Y'all go play outside. Be quiet. Leave her alone, you know.
As she got older, Dee Dee couldn't get excited. Dee Dee couldn't jump around. She couldn't play outside. She couldn't overheat herself.
She was not allowed to assist with chores. If Dee Dee didn't want to do it, well, then she didn't have to because the heart murmur. It was used like a crutch for a long time. But Dee Dee was basically not as sick as it was to believe.
My mom smothered her. She didn't want her to grow up. She wanted to keep her young so that she would always have her to hold on to. Our bedroom was where all of us kids slept, but Dee Dee always slept with my mama. It's like she was her shadow. Always by my mama's side, always.
Yes, I get a boy.
That's your boy.
It's mine too?
Your boy and your ring.
Hi, Mama.
Oh,
How you doing, Mama? What's that, Mama?
Some green.
Some green. Green machine.
that's mine.
They what?
That's your ring.
We didn't get to go to college, but Dee Dee went to college. We didn't get a car when we were growing up. Dee Dee got the car.
That's what Daddy's fixing for her to go in tonight. Dino says she needs a new one.
We knew if you wanted something, you had to go out and earn it. But Dee Dee just wanted it and got it.
Welcome to our series of episodes on the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. We've been researching this case and working on a hybrid series that is partly dramatized scripted series and partly documentary after show with panel discussions providing more in-depth information on this case, as well as highlighting a variety of different platforms. But we're still working on getting this into full-fledged production, so we decided to do this podcast as an introduction to what our series will offer. Our podcast is going to break this case down into 9 episodes, but it's really just a snippet of all the details of this case. Tonight's episode, we're going to talk all about Dee Dee in her younger years. We will hear from Dee Dee's best friends growing up and talk about some of the interviews we did with the Petrie family. In our second episode, you're going to hear a lot from a letter that Christy wrote me when we first got started about what life was really like in Louisiana between her and Rod and Dee Dee. That's a bit intense. Our third episode is going to tackle all the medical stuff in Louisiana. We'll be reading from the actual medical files and have our medical professional Colleen weigh in on all the crazy stuff we uncovered. From there, we'll head on into Springfield, and we originally thought we could get all this done in 3 episodes, but that's not going to happen. So you'll get these 3 episodes to chew on for a minute on Halloween, and then we'll be back in November to give you 2 more sets of 3 episodes each. 1 set in Springfield, and then the last 3 will wrap it all up with the aftermath of the murder, our final thoughts and discussions of the case, and some updates as to where everyone involved is now. So hang on, because it's going to be a wild, wild ride.
Hey guys, this is Fancy, and I wanted to take a few minutes
okay, maybe a lot of minutes to share with you my journey over the last really 3 years investigating this case. And trust me, by the end of this segment, you're probably going to hear me cry because it's really emotional. And I began following this case just before the release of Mommy Dead and Dearest, which was an incredible documentary. And if you haven't seen it, I do highly recommend it. I have always been a true crime buff, and this case seemed to be the most fascinating one I'd ever encountered. When we started out, I was just a small time producer, writer, and actress getting back into the entertainment industry after a very long break, like 20-year break, to raise a family and care for my sick mom. And I had come out of a pretty deep depression, and true crime was kind of how I got lost and didn't think about the fact that I'd lost my own mom. I really wasn't part of any Facebook forum boards or anything at this time for true crime, and to be honest, I hadn't even really thought about them existing. But an ad for Mommy Dead and Dearest popped on my newsfeed, and when I clicked on it, other relevant things popped up too, and that's when I found the forum board and the case about this case, and so I joined. And I really couldn't believe the things I read in there. It was all pretty dramatic, and it was kind of just a bunch of women that seemed really eager to fight and call people out. But in the beginning, there was still a fair amount of actual information being shared too. However, one name in particular just kept popping up, and that was Dee Blanchard. And now, at the time, I had no idea who she was, but it seemed like everybody was really, really excited to jump on her anytime she spoke. And so I didn't know why, and I couldn't figure it out. And so I found out quickly that she was Gypsy's stepmom, and I could not for the life of me understand why people were attacking this poor woman. And as a mom and as a filmmaker, I reached out to her. I originally thought I'd just offer support and tell her I felt for her and what her family was going through. I honestly didn't think she'd reply. I don't even know what I was thinking when I threw out there that I was a filmmaker and that maybe doing a scripted show for the family to get the truth out there could help, because tons of people don't really watch documentaries. But weeks passed and I never got a response, and I figured that would happen, so I just kind of moved on and gave it really no thought. But then one day Christy messaged me back, and I was on my way to work at the time, and I was ecstatic. I had since watched Mommy Dead and Dearest, and I was even more intrigued by the story. I myself have struggled with an abusive mom growing up due to her medical issues, and I really felt connected to all of what I had seen. And Christy was super friendly and warm and very welcoming. Welcoming. That's a word I'm going to use a lot because it's what they seem like down in Louisiana. Well, at the time, though, they were still under contract with HBO, so we couldn't even really talk about a project, so I just waited and I formed a friendship with Christy. Again, I really had no expectation of what to do with this, so I just offered her friendship. We talked a lot, but I was still surprised when she called me and said, "Today's the day! We're released from the contract with HBO and we'd really like to work with you." I couldn't believe it. So I got in my car with my daughter, who happens to be one of my writing partners, Aria, and we drove down there for the weekend. And instead we stayed a week and we headed to Louisiana and met the families. And it was kind of crazy. I first met with Christy and Rod, and they shared a lot with me about their lives, and we talked about what my intentions were, and I was really honest with them. I had no idea if I could even get this thing made, because I was just coming back to the industry, and I had a few contacts, but not a ton. However, what I did promise them was that they would get an honest depiction. I'd give them the ability to work with someone who only wanted truth, no matter what that truth was. I said I'd do everything I could do, but only if they agreed that the whole story would be told, the good, the bad, the ugly. And they said that was exactly what they wanted. So we signed a contract for life rights, and we discussed getting me in contact with Gypsy too, so she could participate and sign, and she did, because Christy had been telling her about me the whole time, and she was super eager to speak with me. And just so you know, the life rights were more for them than for me. I really had nothing to offer them in the way of money at the time, and no real idea of what a network would even offer, to be honest. So basically, what I said was I would share whatever I made with them. maybe that was naive on both of our parts, but I wanted them to know I was willing to share anything I had with them. And they had had previous issues, so I wanted to put it in writing. And so we were all happy with that agreement, even Gypsy. So I sat on a warm porch with Aria, Rod, and Christy, and we chatted about their lives, what had happened, how they had felt, and the stories were unbelievable. Rod had to return out to sea as a boat captain the next day, so I only got to spend one day with him. The rest of the time I spent between the Petrie family, which is Dee Dee's family, and Christy. And Christy was so kind and welcoming. I mean, we spent hours poring over documents, medical files, pictures, scrapbooks, police files, and we laughed and we cried. And we cried a lot. I couldn't believe the stories she told or the documents we read, and each time we thought we heard the worst of it or the most bizarre thing, we'd turn a page and it'd be an even bigger what the fuck moment. So Christy helped me get in contact with Dee Dee's family, and I talked with her cousin Bobby Petrie first, a really, really hot one with all the tattoos that everyone raves about. It was a trip, for sure, but super open and welcoming. The stories he shared were a bit shocking. He talked about drugs and a life of being totally out of control and his aunt being into witchcraft, and even said that nobody in his family was really surprised when they heard that she'd passed. And Bobby told me his life had been kind of insane and he's really a story all to himself, but he said if it wasn't for his daughter, he wouldn't have been there to talk to me because he would have been in jail or prison or dead. And she basically saved his life. So Aria and I sat in his tiny house, and I am not kidding. It is really one of those tiny houses that people build. And we listened to wild story after wild story. We admired the artwork that he'd done. He created a bar out of pennies, and his floor was stained with this huge Elvis head, and he did it all himself. So Bobby arranged for us to meet his aunts and uncles and sent us on our way, but not before. He warned me and Aria about a speed trap heading into Golden Meadow. He said, now you're going to go straight down this road and you'll be going like 60 or more, but there's suddenly going to be a sign that says 50. And that's a firm 50. And he said it just like that. He said, that's not 55 or hell, even 51. It's a firm 50. And the cops ain't no joke. And something told me he wasn't exaggerating, and he wasn't. I saw that sign about 2.2 seconds before I had to hit my brakes so hard to slow down fast enough to not speed past that police car that was waiting for me right on the other side of that sign. But I'm happy to say we did not get a ticket. I met with the family of Dee Dee. Strange, to say the least, but kind and welcoming. They shared stories about Dee Dee as a kid, as an adult, but one thing was very apparent. None of them were good. So I asked one last question before packing it in, and that was, do you miss your sister? To which I got a resounding yes, and so that begged a follow-up question. I said, in all these stories you've told me, I don't hear happy stories or funny stories about Dee Dee. All I hear is how she was manipulative or conniving and sometimes downright mean. So is there anything that you can recall that was good, or that you think, man, I wish she was here so we could do that thing one last time? Silence. It was like I had asked in a question in a foreign language. Finally, it was one of her sisters who broke the veil of silence and said, look, we loved her, she was our sister, and we miss her because of that. But no, we don't really have many good memories. And that was pretty much it. I went and met her dad and stepmom, and it was the same thing. Nobody had a good story to tell, and that was more telling than anything else where Dee Dee was concerned. So, for the past 3 years, I've been a pretty big Gypsy supporter and a pretty staunch Nick non-supporter. And I've never really hidden that. And it was to my own detriment sometimes. The attacks my team and I have been subjected to for our thoughts and protectiveness of this family has been a lot. But more and more things kept popping up that just didn't quite make sense. But really, nothing made sense in all of this, so we sort of just chalked it up to that and went on. I spoke with Gypsy often and Christy daily for over 2 years. But things with Gypsy just never really added up. But we tried to be sympathetic to what she had been through. But when this new guy came in the picture as Gypsy's beau, oh, we began to see a shift in Gypsy's attitude towards us. And then the other shows were all mounting up, and it was causing more stress and tensions. And stuff began to grow between Gypsy and our team. And it wasn't pretty. We tried to make excuses for her. We tried to just be understanding. But there were just these emails and craziness. And we're going to read some of those emails back and forth between some of our team and myself included, and Gypsy, and in our later episodes. But again, we kept going because we decided long ago this story was more than just the Gypsy Rose Blanchard story. It was the story of all the kids suffering at the hands of abusive parents, and the story needed to be told in its entirety. I'm not going to get into all the drama that surrounded all of this, and trust me, there is a shit ton. But it's really irrelevant, except that it took a toll on our team and family. And with everything happening, opinions began to shift. We began thinking there may be way more to the story than we ever thought. Maybe Gypsy wasn't really as truthful as we thought, and maybe Nick wasn't as bad as we thought. And maybe she was more damaged than anyone could have imagined. But through it all, we tried to be supportive of Gypsy and make excuses until the day we all just really couldn't anymore. I had been asking for the interrogation video of Gypsy for years. We'd seen Nick's, but never hers, except the clips the HBO documentary played. And, well, there's a whole nother story there, but that's for another day. Anyway, after 2 years of asking for it, I finally got it. And I shook as I stuck it in the disk drive on my laptop, and then I sat glued in shock and tears for 4 hours. I called Christy and we talked, and I told her, you need to be prepared to watch this because it's not what you're expecting. Because she'd never seen it in its entirety either. And then I called my team one by one with the same messages, and then waited for the calls back. Oh boy, those calls back were fucking emotional. Christy called me in tears. Titania called me hysterical. We couldn't believe what we had seen, and once we'd seen it coupled with all the other things we had learned and uncovered in the past 2+ years, we couldn't unsee that. And our minds were changed, and our hearts were broken. We had all hoped that at some point Gypsy would have told the deputy the truth about her mom and why it all happened. And instead, we just watched Gypsy sit for 4 hours comfortably on a couch talking with deputies about Disneyland and Harry Potter, and eat and calmly wait. We watched her tell the detectives lie after lie after lie without blinking. And we watched as she was finally caught in all the lies, and she then began to play the "but I'm sick" card and the "I need a lawyer" card. She, in 4 hours, never once mentioned being ill, or her mom abusing her, or forcing her to play ill, or talked about the countless surgeries, or even asked for a lawyer. Nothing. She lied until she could no longer lie that she didn't know, and then in a blink of an eye, she turned and calmly threw Nick so far under the bus it wasn't funny. And that was a hard pill for us to swallow, and it began to change our thoughts. It poisoned our relationship with the family, and it broke every one of my team of 25 people's hearts. And I know it broke Christy's too. That moment was the moment we realized Gypsy wasn't the sweet, innocent victim we'd all made excuses for. I mean, she was a victim, but she was also a cold-blooded murderer, and she played a game all of her own. I tell you all this so you understand you may hear some conflicting opinions in these next few episodes. We may battle going back and forth between being pro-Gypsy and not for Nick, and pro-Nick and not for Gypsy, and pro-nobody sometimes. Because, I'll be honest, we grapple with this every single day, and it's trying to come to terms with the realizations that we did not think we were going to have to come to. We have since repaired our relationship with Christy, and she's going to talk about her experience with Dee Dee and her life as it got ripped apart by her lies and fraud and abuse. We'll share how we uncovered all the details and how our minds and hearts have been affected deeply by all of this. And we may cry, and we may laugh, and we may even scream, and I bet you will too. But I can tell you this, it's all the truth. And it's all because of one really big evil. And that's Clauddinnea Dee Blanchard. And she did a number on every person ever to cross her path. And while we understand that Gypsy is who she is today because of her unique trauma and insane abuse, I mean, it clearly shaped her. But at what point do we absolve or not absolve someone of their adult decisions because of their childhood trauma? So here's the story of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, America's sweetheart murderer. Hey folks, it's time to grab your glass of wine because the good wives, Fancy, Colleen, and Christina, are about to serve up another true crime case. On June 14, 2015, the body of Clauddinnea Dee Blanchard is found brutally murdered in her home, and her 23-year-old disabled daughter, Gypsy, is missing. What transpires over the next few days is almost unbelievable, as investigators realize that Gypsy was never disabled, and she and her online boyfriend, Nicholas Godejohn, planned and executed Gypsy's mother's murder. And that's just the beginning of this crazy tale. So, I went down to Louisiana to meet the family and talk with all of them and everything. And I'm the type of person that, before I went down there, I did not understand at all the culture. I was like, you guys, why do you keep building this city? These people live in a bowl. It fills with water every freaking couple of years. Are you guys ridiculous in doing that? This has got to be there's got to be a better way. You guys live in a bowl.
Put a glass dome
and
over
then
it.
I got there. What?
Put a glass dome over
yes,
it.
Put a glass dome over it. There you go. We can live under the dome. No, but literally I was like, I don't understand it. Then I got there, and the minute I got there, guys, I fell in love with that city. Like, I want to have a flat there now. I'm like, anytime a hurricane hits, I'm there. I'm going to help rebuild the city, because the city, the history, it's just so different. And it's one of the things I found down there was just how different everyone was. And like, each little section is got its own energy, and you can feel like there's energy in the air, and you can literally feel it shift as you're walking. I mean, you can feel a dark place, a nice place, you can feel it, but it changes, and it's just such a amazingly cultural piece of our history.
I was just gonna say,
and
it's gotta be the culture.
Yeah.
And it's something that, being up in Wisconsin, we have our own culture up here, but I've only experienced the South and the deeper South only a few times, but I've always wanted to get down to Louisiana. But one of the things that I've had to kind of open my eyes to, the difference between Creole and Cajun, because in my brain they're the same. Spicy food.
Right. Yeah.
So I had to do a little history. But the Creole people, the definition is a little bit more ambiguous. Their history is about French-speaking white descendants of early French and Spanish settlers. But they can be of mixed ethnicity and ancestry, and speaking a form of French and Spanish. Versus, and those settlers, they had mixed with the West Indian inhabitants, and it's a really strong Creole influence for the food, the music, the dress. Whereas Cajun, and this is where Titania always brings me in, is these are the French people who settled in the technically Canadian territory of Acadia.
Right.
But they were kicked out by the British. And a lot of them moved to Louisiana, and largely in the rural swamps. And their culture permeates New Orleans through mainly food, like the gumbo, etouffee.
I know.
And
yeah, I know. That is, Titania is going to come on and give her recipes, guys, and they are so good. Oh my God.
And they're also the people who we like to know that they eat a lot of crawfish and also alligator meat, which I have tried at State Fair, and it's different. That's all I'm going to say.
It's very different. It is very different. And I can tell you, like, the smaller the restaurant, the better the food. Like, if you're like in a little hole in the wall and you're like, where am I eating? You know, because Christy took me to this place called The Balcony. It was amazing. I have never had better food in my entire life. And Aria and I were just like, more food, please. Like, it was so good. Everything's fried, though, so nothing is healthy for you. Like, it's just, nothing is healthy for you.
I think the hole in the wall places, anywhere you go, that's the place that you want to be.
Yes.
I'm sure, Christina, you got to know in New York.
Oh, yes. Those are the absolute best places to go.
Yeah. And this was like, it was like the place that she took me, it was literally like it was almost like a mobile home that they had turned into a restaurant. It was so funny. I was like, this is crazy, but it was so good. I mean, so good. And we will have, so Titania is going to, come on each week, and she's going to give us some recipes, and she'll give us a Cajun word of the day or the French word of the day. So it's going to be fun. We'll have a lot of fun with that. But yeah, definitely food based down there. And man, did they sell me on it, because that's always, Christy's father made me a shrimp po' boy. And I am like, oh my God. Anyway. So I had a chance to sit down with the family and talk with the Petrie family, and I also talked with Christy and Rod. But I mean, if you don't understand the history of this story, you're never going to know what actually happened, because there's just so much beyond just medical abuse and child abuse and all that. So it was an interesting thing. Sitting out with the family, let me tell you, I have never in my life been so confused by something people were saying. they're down there and they've got their own little accents, but it was really hard. And we didn't want to take recording devices or like cameras or anything, because Beecher family had literally talked to nobody at that point. So, we didn't want to spook them.
Right.
So we went in. My daughter was with me, so Aria's sitting with me, and she had the computer. She was like taking the notes, and I was asking questions. And I swear to you, there must have been 900 times where I would look at her and I would be like, "Did you get?" And she's like, "No." And so then I would have to look at them and ask them again. I'm like, "Excuse me, so you said what again?" And I swear they must have thought I was a complete idiot. But I literally, could not understand what they were saying. It was hilarious. But, we sat down with them and we talked, and they, the stories that they told were interesting. They were stories of Dee Dee being very manipulative as a child, from the get-go, from the very, very beginning. And they had an interesting childhood,
Right. And I don't know whether or not everything started when she was a baby, whether it started when she was a child, but at least from adolescent on, she was Dee Dee from then on.
Yeah. Well, it started off, when they brought her home from the hospital, she told, she's quite a bit younger than the other two. There's let's see, so there's Claude Jr., Tate, Evans, Claudia, Dorla. Dee Dee is 6, and there was a 7th. But the 7th one only lived a couple hours and passed away. So there was complications there. But Dee Dee is I think it's 10 years from end to end, but so it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those are really close in age. And then it's I think it's 5 or 6 years between Claudia and Dorla. I don't know which one is older. I think Claudia is the older one and Dorla is the younger one. And then comes Dee Dee.
How long was the distance between Dee Dee and then the baby who passed away?
I think that was really close.
Really close.
Yeah, I think that was just a year or two apart from that. But she was the baby, but she came home, her mom brought her home and told them immediately that she had a heart murmur. And her dad was like, "Well, what do you mean? She was healthy." No, they said she had a heart murmur. So definitely we see some of the tendencies with Emma that we see with Dee Dee later. But it wasn't the same type of situation. With her, it was more about giving Dee Dee special privileges. The girls talk about she was always given birthday parties, and she got cars, multiple cars. She's the only one that got to go to college. She did the beauty pageants. They didn't get to do any of that stuff. So, and she got out of chores. This is a crazy story. So, and I always tell you guys there's a story. You guys are going to hear that a lot through this thing. I'm going to tell you guys all the time. And there's a story there, because there's always a story. But this story is that cleaning day was always Saturdays. And it wasn't just normal cleaning day. It wasn't oh, go, do the laundry and sweep the floor and vacuum. No, she came in and she would remove everything from all the shelves and everything, and they had to put it back exactly the same way. And if they didn't, then she would literally bring out a bag of flour and fling it all over the living room, and they would have to start all over again, washing the walls. It was crazy the amount of cleaning they had to do. But Dee Dee didn't have to do any of that.
Kind of like a mommy dearest thing.
Very.
Oh God, you have no idea. They talk about and the thing is they talk very fondly of their mother, and they say they had a great childhood and everything. But then they sit and they tell me stories about having to go out and pick their own switches, which lots of kids talk about that back in that time period. But they didn't just pick their own switches and get switched. Then she would rub salt in the wounds,
oh wow,
and make them kneel. And she would she had a runner in the living room, and she would flip it over so that the spiky parts were sticking up, and she'd make them kneel on the runner.
Wow.
That's crazy stuff, right? So but they talk very fondly of their mom. So I don't know. But that's the same thing what they do with Dee Dee. We sat and we listened to all the stories about her. and nobody had anything nice to say. Like, nobody. I started off, with Rod and Christy, obviously, and they gave us, some history and some different stuff. And they talked mostly about, the current stuff, after the murder, what they felt like and everything. And then I got to go meet Bobby Petrie.
Hot Bobby.
Yeah. Yeah. Hot Bobby.
Hot Bobby.
Hot Bobby. And he is hot. He's hot.
One of you.
And yeah, and he is adorable. Like, literally adorable. He lives in a tiny house. I'm not talking like a house, like an apartment. I'm talking literally one of those little tiny houses.
That's my dream.
Yes.
This is so cute.
That's your dream? That's your dream?
I want to get away from everyone and have a nice piece of land with a tiny house and a pool and a bunch of dogs.
See, I always thought it was going to be like the weirdest thing. And if I didn't go in there and thought that was the most shit and cute thing I've ever seen in my life.
They're adorable.
Like, it was adorable. It was super adorable. And we go in there. He is not just a tattoo artist. He is an artist. He had this little bar that he made totally out of pennies. And when you look at it, it's like lacquered and everything. And he made the swirls on the thing with the pennies and made this beautiful pattern. And then he like lacquered that. And then on his floor, he stained his floor to resemble this huge Elvis head. Like, with staining, not like he drew it on there. It was stained with different colors of floor stain. Crazy beautiful.
Artist.
But, yes, he is very wicked talented, and he owes me a freaking tattoo and a swamp boat ride. So that's what I'm going to get the next time I go down there. So
let me know when I want to come with you.
Yeah, we should all do it together.
We need to do a road trip. Yes.
Only if it's like during the winter, because I will not go anywhere south of Kentucky in the summer.
Oh God, no! It is horrid down there during the summer. Oh my
Wisconsin
God.
blood up here. Like, I'm comfortable when it's like 40, 50.
It was 4 here the other, like, with wind chill and everything, it was 4 here the other day, and I was literally livid because I'm a California girl. I went from one coast to the other. I was born in Florida, and my dad was in the military, so we did like Germany and stuff like that for a little bit. But they got divorced when I was 6, so we ended up in California, and that's where I call home because I don't remember a whole lot before that. And so I'm California girl. So we get down to 4 here, and I'm like, this isn't even what you should be calling weather. This never should be this cold. But anyway, Bobby. So went to meet Bobby. Bobby tells, he's like the most real person I've ever met in my entire life. He doesn't hold anything back. He's very, very, forthcoming. And he tells some wild stories. I mean, crazy stories about being on drugs and doing different things growing up. And then he talks about, like witchcraft with his aunt. And I mean, it's kind of crazy. And I was like looking at him, and my daughter and I were like, and he's like, no, don't worry. I can see it. I know you're getting freaked out, but don't worry. My daughter saved my life. I'm all good now. So, which I thought that was sweet.
Very sweet.
Yeah. So I sat down with him and talked with him for a little while. And, he says that his aunt was, he was the favorite, he went all over with her all the time. But he said that he could always see this mean streak in her. And she would favor him over his sister, but then like she'd get upset and then she'd turn on him real quickly and like favor his sister for no reason whatsoever, and then turn on her and come back to him. So just definitely a mean streak all the way through, always. Mm-hmm. So, and then he sent me on my way. He set up for me to go down and talk to his aunt, because he's Claude Jr.'s, which is the oldest. That's his son. And I've talked with his sister too. I haven't got to talk with Claude Jr. I've talked with all the others. Now, Claude Jr., from my understanding, he interviewed with Gypsy's Revenge, didn't have very nice things to say about Rod and Christy, and didn't end up in Gypsy's Revenge either. So I would love to hear from him. You know, because I don't think he has great things to say. But anyway, so Bobby sends me on my way, which is really funny. He's so cute. Okay, this is the funniest thing. So he's telling me, okay, you're going to go down the street. And he's telling it to me in, you know, his little New Orleans Cajun accent. It's absolutely amazing. You just want to listen to him talk. I don't know what he's saying.
What do they say the directions are there? Up the bayou, down the bayou, this side of the bayou, and that side of the bayou?
Yeah. Right. And I can listen to him talk. Like I said, I can listen to him talk all day and have no idea what he's saying, but I would still just love to hear him talk. Because it's just adorable. And so he's telling me, okay, so you're going to go down this street, all the way down. He's like, okay, and that's where Golden Meadow is going to be. He's like, you're going to be going like 60, maybe 65, because I go 70 sometimes. You know, and he's like, you're going to be going a long ways down there. But you are going to see a sign, and it is going to say 50. He's on, that is a firm 50. That's not 51. That's not 52. That is a firm 50. He's like, and I'm not lying. They are literally waiting on the other side of that sign, and they're going to get you. And damned if they weren't waiting that day. But thankfully, I didn't catch a ticket that day. So thank you, Bobby.
Little warning sign.
It was great. You know, I was like, damn if there isn't a cop sitting here. My God. You know, he's like, that's a speed trap if I ever seen one. You know, so, but I went down and then I met with the uncles, the aunts and the uncles, the siblings. Like I said, they're an interesting little bunch. Very sweet, but strange. They're strange. I don't know if that's just the bayou and I'm not used to it, or if that's just their family.
Probably a mixture of both.
You know?
Yeah.
Probably a mixture of both. Yeah. You know, and they talked and they gave me a lot of information. They talked about Dee Dee, you know, young and growing up and everything, and how spoiled she was, and how spoiled she was and everything. But, you know, I was sitting there at the end and I asked them, well, you know, nothing you've said is nice. Like, this is your sister. Don't you have good stories? No. Nope.
No.
So,
but it was like
so
they all said that they missed her and they loved her, yeah, but none of them could give a good memory or a warm, fuzzy story of something that had happened. It was just like, well, she's our sister, so we love her and we miss her, but there was nothing nice to say about her, which is so crazy to me.
Right. So, I mean, I'm not the closest with my family. I've had words with my family. And in fact, since my mom passed away, I don't really talk to my family. We've had some differences of opinions that I just couldn't get over. But I can still sit and recall moments with each member of my family that I'm like, and that was a good day. You know, like, yeah, I really loved that day, or that was fun, or I missed that about my cousin, or my aunt was really my favorite aunt for the longest time. I'm so sad that we don't talk anymore. You know, I mean, I can do that.
Yeah, me too.
They could not do that.
Right. And
they were like, okay, go ahead.
And that really says something to her character, because I can always, even after I know a truth about somebody, after the fact, and I could think of a couple of different family members that I have had that situation, but I can always look back at the memories, or, you know, knowing them as a person, can say, you know, forgive and forget, or, you know, that still doesn't change the good memories that I have with them.
Right.
And even,
right, like, I can always, sorry, go ahead.
And even, like, you know, that's your sister, to say, like, I remember when Mom brought her home from the hospital. Something to say about your sister.
No, because the day they brought her home from the hospital, they were told, you have to be quiet, don't do anything, because she's got a heart murmur, shut the hell up and sit down. Like, so even from the second they got her, they're like, why do we even want this kid here? You know, like, damn it. And the thing is like, you're right. I can think of, I am always a person that tries to look for the good in people. Like, you know, even the worst of the worst, I can try and find some redeeming quality.
I can vouch for that, Fancy.
I know you can. Like, I try so hard. I am a person that gives people 9,000 chances. I am a person who goes, yeah, but I mean, they're kind of this, but what about this? They're really a good heart, or, I think she's really funny. There's different things. Like, I try so hard to find good in people. I have yet, on 3 years of looking at this case, found one redeeming effing quality about this woman. Like, nothing. And we all laugh about the dad, being like, flush the ashes down the toilet. And I know he was being funny when he said it. I know that he was nervous. If you meet Mr. Claude, he's very, very welcoming. He's nice. He's kind. He's a little touchy-feely for my liking, but I mean, that's just me. But he welcomed me into his home. He showed me around. He showed me his workshop. I brought home this, like, I think it's a clam. A clam shell or an oyster shell, I don't know. I don't eat either. But that he had painted, he gave me that, to bring home from him, that I have, and I set it on my desk, And I mean, they're very nice, but I think he was very nervous, and he said, like, flush down the toilet, and I can honestly understand where that's coming from, like, because I can't find one good thing about her. Like, literally not one. Even talking to them, I asked him, I said, well, what was Dee Dee like? And he's like, oh, she was okay. She was all right. She was a good kid, I guess. And she's all right. Who talks about their kid like that?
Yeah.
So it's been really hard to even find sympathy for Dee Dee in any way, shape, or form in this. Like, that's been the hardest part for me, to try and find that one redeeming thing of, like, well, there you go. That's it right there.
I think the only time anybody had the thought that she was a good person was when she and Gypsy were pretending to be the cutest mother-daughter thing in the world for, Disney, and for all the different conventions and conferences, and for the doctors. And like, oh, she's just a loving, caring mom. She's so great. But nobody who actually knew her can say anything good about her.
And it's an act between, I mean, even like Christy, when it first happened, she was like, oh, we love you so much, Dee Dee. That was an act. Like, there was absolutely no love between any of them. Like, they thought she was a good mom, obviously, because she put on a good act. That was about the nicest thing anybody could say. Everyone said they thought she was a good
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's the nicest thing they can say, and then you realize that that's a facade, so it's not really nice, is it? So, and so anyway, tonight, I mean, we've got Suzette and Titania on. They are longtime friends of Dee Dee's. They met in junior high, and then became friends later in high school, and then on beyond high school for, into their early 20s, until Dee Dee started doing really crazy stuff to them too. And they fell away before she even married Rod. So they weren't even there for like all of that. And then they would occasionally see her from time to time, especially Titania, because Titania's a nurse as well, and would see her, at the hospital here and there, but she never had like direct contact with her or anything as far as like, doing anything that would have, been suspicious to her. She just would pass her in the hallway and be like, oh, hey, how's Gypsy, and blah, blah, blah. And then she'd always said that every single time she saw her, it was some new story. So, but that's what we have on tonight. And they are going to tell us a lot about what Dee Dee was like when she was young.
Don't go anywhere. The Good Wives will be right back. In every episode, since we're the Good Wives, we won't just be dishing true crime. We also want to serve up one of our favorite recipes. So here's the Cajun Mama Thai with this week's Tasty Delight.
Ladies, I wish there was a way that you guys could smell what I'm cooking. Welcome to Cajun Mama Thai's recipe of the day. where I will be sharing a recipe with each podcast from the area where our journey takes us. As you all know, Dee Dee and Gypsy's journey started in a small town. Yes, in good old South Louisiana, my neck of the woods, Cajun country, as we all like to call it. This recipe actually is one of my favorites, and Cajuns like to make this the day after a seafood ball. We peel those crawfish or shrimp and put them little suckers in the fridge for the next day. This recipe is good old shrimp or crawfish étouffée.
So, in this episode, we wanted to start off by really diving into who Dee Dee was before all of this got started. And so, we've talked a little bit about our interview with the Petrie family, but now you're going to get to hear from Dee Dee's two best friends growing up, and that's Suzette and Titania. And they've got some interesting stories to tell, so I'm really excited for you to hear what they have to say.
We had a thing where every concert we go to, we would meet one of the band members or get their autograph.
Mm-hmm.
Or take pictures with them, or if we would meet them, we would try to get their autograph or take a picture with them.
And you said this was in high school, right?
Or after high school.
Oh, it was after high school. I thought you said it started in high school.
Well, that's when she would tell us that she was in a relationship with the singer of Night Ranger, that they were like pen pals and more than pen pals, because she would show us letters that he wrote to her and
right
pictures he would send her, and it was like it started out as pen pals, and then it got more than pen pals from what she told us.
Ah, okay.
And
this was when? This was like junior year, senior year?
Her senior year.
Did y'all get to read the letters?
No, she would never let us read it, but
So you would just like see that she had a letter, which could be like a fan club kind of letter.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was written in like script ink, like it was written in somebody's handwriting. But she would just let us show. She would just show us his signature, like where he signed it.
Did it ever look like her writing, or did it really look like somebody else's writing?
I'd never really noticed. I just noticed the signature.
Yeah.
And it always said like love always.
Well, I think back in, in that time, I think the fan clubs would have like this letter that would be handwritten, but it was like photocopied that they would send out to everybody that joined the fan club. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. That'd be kind of.
Well, this was the letter that she showed us. The letters she showed us was like written on like composition paper that was torn out, or loose leaf paper.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
And it might have been like 2 or 3 pages long. That she would each letter.
She went through a lot of trouble for that.
Letter.
Yeah, I mean, I got my little Teen Beat ones from certain guys when I was back in the 80s, but,
right?
But I mean, nothing like that. Damn. I mean, okay, so then you get out of high school, and you said then you guys started going to like all the concerts, and you'd wait behind stage. Yeah. So tell me what happened when you would do that. So
we went to a Night Ranger concert, and we went back, like not backstage. We went after the concert was over. She's like, "Come on, let's go. We got to hurry up and like go around. We go all the way around the building to where they would come out at."
Mm-hmm.
And she'd find where the tour buses were. She would find that at the beginning, like before the concert, before we go into the concert, she would find out where they would come out at to go to their tour buses.
Okay.
So we knew which doors to go to wait for them to come out. So we'd hurry up to run out to be first in line. We would hurry up and go to meet them at the door. And we went for that particular concert. We went and we waited and waited and waited. And then when they did come out, she told me, make sure you get a good picture. Make sure it's a good one. She said, you better get me a good picture. It's like, okay, I'll try the best I can. And when they came out, she grabbed him and she's like, hey, Jack. And he's like, hey, how you doing? And they posed for the picture. I snapped the picture, and then he went on his merry way onto the bus.
Did he act like he even knew who she was?
No, not at all. She framed it and put it in by her bedside on her nightstand.
Yeah, she had a big, like, when Sue and I used to go to her house, she had like an 8x10 photo on her wall with, like, I can remember, like, it was like a something that he had written in the frame. Sue, you remember that? Like, it was something like a handwritten note in the frame. I remember Suzette telling me, Ty, look, I'm the one who took that picture. And I'm like...
So, I mean, she's just this band groupie who just, like, I mean... I don't know. I remember girls like doing this when I was in high school. Like, oh, I'm in a relationship with so-and-so. There was like one girl, Aria, was in school that was like, I'm in a relationship with Justin Bieber. Girls, this girl would never have been in a relationship with Justin Bieber, let's just say. Selena Gomez, she was not. And this is the same like kind of thing. Like, you know, she's sitting here going and poor Suzette, like, can you imagine, like, you take this picture and then the next thing you know, she's telling people, like, that's my guy. Like,
it's such a groupie stalker moment. This poor guy from Night Ranger. Like, so I'm younger, but I will always love Johnny Depp. He will always be the hottest guy ever. I don't care if he's old enough to be my grandfather. I don't care. He's hot.
He's one of my top 3. Yeah.
But like in my brain, I'd be like, I would love him to be my boyfriend when I was in high school. But it was like, I've been with the same guy since 8th grade. There was never any, here's my secret letter, but you can't read it.
Like, just look at it from afar.
Right, see that signature at the bottom? That's his, I swear. But you can't read the rest.
His. It's definitely his. It's very private. I'm going to tell you all about it, but it's totally private.
Right. I'm under the age of 18, but we are sexually writing to each other. And I am his one true love.
Meanwhile, the guy's married, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the band guys don't have girls on the road. Let's not be naive here. But really, come on.
He was going for Dee Dee.
Dee Dee, even when she was young, she wasn't pretty like that. Like,
I was surprised that she was even in beauty pageants. Like, I look at that video and I'm like, I don't think so. You aren't winning. This is a different era.
We're honey boo boo in it, guys. You know?
Yes.
Oh my God. No, but it bears. It's like a precursor to what she does with Gypsy later, you know? Like, she has always been obsessed with celebrity, being famous, you know? And when I first met Christy, one of the things she brings out is these like, I mean, stacks and stacks, guys, of these scrapbooks of all the people that Gypsy and Dee Dee met. Like, you know, signed autographs. And of course, we know about the check from Miranda Lambert, you know, and there's a couple of those. And there was another guy, too. I don't remember who the other one was, but there was another one. I mean, she is literally always been obsessed. And I think that she used Gypsy to do that. Like, you know, to fulfill this, like, you know, you hear it like living vicariously through your kid, you know. It's like the woman who always wanted to be a cheerleader that then pushes her kid to be a cheerleader so that she can be a cheerleader. That's what I'm feeling here. And I guess it started young, you know? I mean, and the absurdity of it, like she frames this picture, she puts it next to her nightstand, and she's got this written letter framed in there with it. And she's like really trying to convince them that she's in some sort of relationship with this guy. Like, what?
Well, and she will do this till literally the day she dies. because she would do it with the celebrities, but she even did it with the doctors. Like, and her neighbors, like, she has cancer. Show me proof she has cancer. They were lost in Katrina.
Right.
Like, there's no proof, no actual evidence. No.
Right. I mean, she upped her game. Let's be honest. She upped her damn game. Like, she went from, this is completely horseshit, unbelievable, to, hey, my daughter's got everything under the sun, and we've had 76 procedures before she's 23. So, hey, I mean, she upped her game.
Took a lot of years of practice.
I think a lot of it with Dee Dee was when she walked into a room, she took control, she commanded the room, and people were either intimidated by her, they couldn't question her, and I think she did that from a very, very young age. Like, even with the guy from the band, when she yelled out to him, "Hey, it's me, Dee Dee, want to take this picture with me?" Like, he didn't look at her and say, "Dee Dee who?" Like, it was like, okay, come on. Like, I don't think anybody would have even questioned her with anything. From a young age, people just seemed to go with the flow when it came to Dee Dee.
Yeah.
So I could see her walking into a hospital or a doctor's office and just like commanding that respect and attention. Like, this woman is, I don't know, I want to say almost an expert in things. I think she gave off that air, like, I know exactly what I'm talking about, and don't you dare question me about anything, because this is what I say, and what I say goes.
Yes.
Right. Like I feel like it was like a very big, like, I don't know if you guys have seen Devil Wears Prada, but like a Miranda Priestley kind of vibe. Like, she just walks in and they're like all scurrying, like, oh my God, she's here. Oh no. Like that kind of thing. Because you even get that from Titania and Suzette in how, like, they talk about later tonight. They're going to talk about, some of the things that she would say to them. Like, she always wanted to be better than them. She always would try to make herself look better than them and be better than them. And if she wasn't, she would orchestrate ways to make them look terrible. Like, and to hurt them and do different things to hurt them. So, I mean, she's just, you're right. Like exactly like that. And it's like almost like the executive walking through that's like talking to each person, but I don't think he really knows the people, but yet he gives this appearance of like this, I know everybody and everybody look at me as I walk through the room, blah, blah, blah. And, hey, you over there, how's your 3 kids? You don't have 3 kids? I don't give a shit. How are your 3 kids? Like, I don't know. But she's been like that. Like I said, you're right. It started young, and it just continued, all the way through.
So that's crazy story number 1. And I mean, I think she was just like that.
I mean, I just think she just had this persona that, like, just commanded people, and she went with that, like,
Yeah, and there's another Munchausen's case. I believe the lady's name is Julie Gregory, and in her story, she talks about how her mom would come walking into the hospital wearing like a little business suit and heels, and she would walk in and she would tell the doctors what they were going to do and how they were going to do it, and the doctors would be like, "Okay, ma'am." And she had a couple people that worked there that were her friends, so it was even easier because people wouldn't, well, we're friends outside of the hospital. I'm not going to question you when you tell me, "Hey, Christina, my daughter's going through this." I'm not going to say, "Fancy, I think you're lying to me." No, I'm your friend. You're telling me this is wrong with your daughter. Okay, let's go. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. So I think that's like a thing with Munchausen's. Like, you walk in, like you own the place, and people are intimidated and afraid to question you, even if deep down inside, like, wait a minute, something is really wrong here. Like, a common thing with Munchausen by proxy moms is that they just walk into a place like they own the place, and they tell people how it's going to go, and people are just like, okay. And if they do question it, it's deep down inside, like, okay, well, something is not right here, but I can't say anything to this lady, because they just, they take control, and people go with the flow.
They're intimidating people. And
and I think her persona, Yeah, I think her persona too, because when she was young, she was like in that whole goth period and everything. And that's what Rod liked about her, he's like, oh, she's different than the girls in the bayou, blah, 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 and she don't look like them, don't talk like them. But then when she had Gypsy, like the whole persona flipped. She started wearing those like moo dresses and like pastel colors, and then she started putting on the weight and everything. Like she played up this part of like this, oh my God, the best mom, you know, and she just, look how cute she is in her little dress and the little pastel colors. Like, I think that she literally, like, I don't know if that was an act or like that she planned or she just did it. I don't know, but it definitely was working for her,
Right.
you know?
Don't go anywhere. The Good Wives will be right back.
This recipe is so easy, I can make it with my eyes closed. We always need to remember, take the Cajun Trinity, onion, celery, and bell pepper. That brings me to a story. Let me tell you about the Cajun Trinity. Well, most Cajuns are born and raised Catholic, and we are taught about the importance of the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And Cajuns definitely respect their Holy Trinity, but by gosh, they respect their food just as much. I think it was Paul Prudhomme, some famous Cajun chef, who developed this Cajun Trinity, onion, celery, and bell pepper. That is the beginning of every Cajun dish. Well, let me get back to the recipe. Well, you know, every Cajun dish starts with the Cajun Trinity, but it also starts with a stick or two of butter. So we take the butter and this Holy Trinity, the Cajun Trinity, and you brown your onions. Brown your onions real good. Adding a little flour, a little celery, a little chicken stock or seafood stock, whichever one you like, to thicken that gravy. Make sure once that gravy is nice and thick, you add your seafood and then you add your seasoning. Don't forget your Louisiana hot sauce, little bit. Serve it over a bed of steamed rice, and so good. Let me tell you something. I know Brandy's gonna talk about adding tomatoes to etouffee. You don't add tomatoes to Cajun's etouffee. Only the Italian Cajun Emma Lagasse does that.
Ty, another great recipe. For the full recipe that was shared tonight, join us at our exclusive membership club at www.patreon.com/truecrimewives. Well, you've heard some of the ways that Dee Dee was obsessed with celebrities and grabbing attention. But now we're going to hear Suzette and Titania talk about what she would do if you happen to cross her. Because Dee Dee has a long history of getting rid of people who she just didn't seem to like.
But you have to understand, Suzette and I, like my parents and Suzette's parents were basically kind of sort of the same. We both lived really very sheltered lives. We never were allowed to go, like I was in 9th grade. I was 15 I was 15, 16 years old before my mom or my dad ever would let me sleep by anybody's house, and it was by Suzette's house. So I really, like, Suzette and I were friends, or like even older than that, and then just when we became friends with Dee Dee, we still hadn't really experienced a whole lot of going into, like, Dee Dee's the one who taught us how to go into bars, how to pick up guys, how to manipulate things, and she basically taught us how to lie, is what she did. Because
now, when you Night Ranger one that you guys were talking about there was also a story you told me when I first met you, that you were telling me that you guys went to see Night Ranger in New Orleans, and you had a friend that was named Heidi that was with you. Is that the same time, or was that a different time period?
That was a different time.
Okay, so the different time when Heidi was with you, that was when you all were together, right?
Yes, that's when we spent the night in New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
And Dee Dee had talked to a cab driver.
Mm-hmm.
Now we were in her car, but she flags down this cab driver and around the concert venue, and she asks him if he could lead us to the hotel where the band was staying at. So he did. And we stayed at the same hotel where the band was staying at.
But wouldn't she have known that if she was in a relationship with him?
You would think.
You would think, right? Okay, and so that's the time where I guess you guys had told me, anytime anybody got in the way of what Dee Dee wanted to do, she'd try and get rid of them. And so this is what you had said before was that Heidi wasn't supposed to go out and do anything. She was supposed to just check in with her grandma, and you guys were supposed to go back to the hotel and stay in. But Heidi had said she could, that Dee Dee wanted to go out and party, and Heidi said she couldn't. And then so she began working to get rid of Heidi. Do you remember all that? Is that
right?
Yeah,
exactly.
So what happened there? What did she do? How did she try to get rid of Heidi?
Heidi had talked to her grandma, and she said that she couldn't go out, that she had to stay at the hotel. And Heidi's like, well, y'all could go out, but I'm staying. I'm not going out. That's too dangerous, and I'm not going to disobey my grandma.
Mm-hmm.
Part of our group if she would go against Dee Dee. So she started slowly trying to turn us against her.
What'd she do?
Just tell us all kind of different things, like she's trying to get in the way of you having fun, and she's not. Like, she tried to turn me against Heidi, and it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So then she started to turn Heidi against me.
Mm.
And that worked because she got me to go along with something that Heidi never forgave me for.
And what was that?
Heidi was in love with this guy, and she got us to sort of like get her convinced that she was going on a date with a guy.
Mm-hmm.
When it was my brother's friend that made the phone calls. Ready to go on her date, and we sneak around and hide in the bushes to watch her to get ready for that date. Mm-hmm. And we got caught.
Oh wow. My God. Wow.
Yeah. So Heidi never forgave me for it, and still to this day, she still hasn't forgiven me for it. And the following week, her mom came to my house and told my mom what happened. So I got in trouble for that. And then Heidi was out of the picture.
Yeah. Jeez. Wow. So she was really conniving even back then, because that's like some Mean Girls shit right there. Like,
that's what I was thinking. And we're talking original Mean Girls here.
That's like we were Pink on Wednesdays, like, I mean, wow. So what she got all ready for this date, then nobody showed up, right? Like,
no, nobody showed up. We were hiding in the bushes around her house, and her mom and dad happened to come home and catch us hiding in the bushes.
Oh, That's like that reminds me of like the story of like, Carrie, where they get her convinced that she's gonna go and have this prom date and everything, and then they set her up. I mean, good Lord.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're all gonna laugh at you. They're all gonna laugh at you.
I think the getting rid of the friend is just, that's so telling, because she did that everywhere she went. Like, if you crossed her, like the doctors, if they didn't put in the chart what she wanted, then she didn't go back, and
right. She had a long I'm sorry. She had a long list of people who could be on her list, and the good list, where they're okay, we can go there. She's okay, I can talk to her about things, but not the true things. And then if somebody on that list started asking,
okay, so we see it here too, like this intimidation factor, like we were talking about earlier. I mean, now she's Titania and Suzette were super sheltered. They grew up on a little town. She's the one who got them to lie. She taught them how to go out to the bars, and then she just gets rid of this friend. Like, I mean, who does these things? Like, it just, the mean girl tactics is strong with her. Like, never in my life. There's only been one other person I've seen that looks like that. Okay, she gotta help.
Then it was an X, and the name's off the list, and she X'd you out of her life.
Right. Yeah. And then the stories started, I mean, again, like, she makes up these stories about Heidi to get her to go, and tries to convince her, puts it, that poor girl, like, going through getting ready for a date and everything, and then him not showing up. Like, why are you so cruel? I mean, her stuff was cruel. And she did the same thing, I mean, I know she did some cruel things with Christy in the hospital. She was cruel to her stepmother. We hear it over and over and over and over again. And it's like it was so ingrained in her to just be like that.
Yeah, there was like no limits to what she would do to get things to go how she wanted them in every situation, from a young age till the day, like Colleen said, literally till the day that she died. That's how she lived.
Right.
I mean, the flip of a switch, and okay, we're done with you. Bye. But now I'm going to make your life suck until I decide that I can move on.
Right. Until I have everybody hating you, or I move away, or I have convinced everyone that I am right and you are wrong, or you are like groveling at my freaking feet, begging me.
Then it's okay. Then we can move on.
See too, like, I mean, the intimidation factor and the just absolute like control of everything. We see that with the way she treats Gypsy, and how she controlled every aspect of Gypsy's life. Like, I'm surprised Gypsy didn't have to ask to go to the bathroom, for heaven's sakes, like, can I go to the bathroom, Mom? Is it okay if I go now? Like, I mean, it was intense. And this poor girl, Heidi, this poor girl, all she did was say, try to do what her grandmother told her. Don't go out after the concert. And man, that's it. You're cut off, dude. That is heinous. You're out. You're trying to ruin our fun. We're not having that. So I'm just going to send a guy over to your house and tell him that, pretend that he's going to come and be on this date with you. And then, nope, screw you. Like, and not only does that hurt the girl, but then poor Suzette is cut out of the girl's life because she went along with it, which, I mean, obviously Suzette should have known better and not gone along with it. But we all have made those choices when it's somebody that's like, super, super intimidating, and you just do something you would never do,
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, she was able to have medical professionals listen to her and not question her. How, like, she was no match for an average teenage girl or girl in her early 20s that she was hanging out with.
Right. And now we've seen that in the people who follow this case. Same kind of thing. Like, it's like they're drawn to the light, like, come to the light, because there's people that are following this case that are the same way. And every day we think, what in the hell? How is that person getting those people to listen to her? And they just keep on. So I say it like every day we talk about that and we're like, oh God, I don't know how this happened. But then you look back at this and obviously it is possible on a grand scheme level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and if you start off young, you've always been like that forever. Then there are those just type of people in the world that they are very controlling, intimidating people. I think many of them grow up to be doctors or, politicians because those are those personalities.
Right.
And Dee Dee, sorry.
No, go ahead.
And Dee Dee, instead of going, that route, she was pretended she was in that route, by then looking information up and being the authoritarian parent with her child, but to the doctors, and intimidating those doctors, which really can say how much of a controlling person she was, that she could put a doctor in their place.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why when I started looking at a lot of the stuff, I struggle with the diagnosis of Munchausen by proxy in this case. Like, I struggle a lot with it. Because to me, yes, I feel like the medical stuff is there, so that kind of makes it classically Munchausen by proxy. But I feel like this crossed into a level of different things. And I was, that's one of the things I asked Dr. Feldman, who, by the way, crazy note there, he has never looked at the files or talked to Gypsy. So he's going solely on the fact that this was medical abuse, nothing else, but one of the things he had said was about the fact that, it is a con, and that's why people, they've gone back and forth, experts have gone back and forth, like lobbying for it to not be in the DSM-5, because to put it on, it's calling it a disorder or whatever, it kind of absolves the parent of what they're doing. And it's really just awful child abuse in a really crazy, weird way. But if you look back, it's classic that it starts with them early on. And there are just signs of it way, way before they ever get into that,
I think with Dee Dee, I think Munchausen's by proxy is part of it. I think malingering by proxy is part of it. But I also think maybe Dee Dee got so good at what she was doing that she didn't physically have to make Gypsy sick anymore. We question what medications Gypsy was on when Dee Dee died, and we haven't been able to find that she was on a huge amount of medications at that time. So I think it might have gotten to where, like, I don't have to give her 17 different medications every day to pull this off. I can just tell people she takes 17 different medications a day and everybody believes me. So I don't have to physically do this. But I do believe that in the end, it would have ended with Gypsy dying at her mother's hands, and it would have been something with an overdose of medications or something like that. And I think Dee Dee had it so down pat that nobody would have questioned it. It would have been, oh, this poor woman, she dedicated her whole life to taking care of that girl, and now she's gone, and what's she going to do without her? I don't think anybody would have blinked an eye and said, wait, something is not right here. She would have just continued to ride that wave of people donating money and people treating her like a martyr once Gypsy was gone.
100%, yes.
Either that, or I can honestly see this ending in murder-suicide, because she always made that comment that she hoped that they go together and that they would never be good with one without the other. And I was born to be your mom, and like all those things. I really could see it being like, okay, the gig is up. It's I can't pull this off anymore. What am I going to live for? If I don't have my sick child, so. All right, I'm going to kill Gypsy. I'm going to kill myself. Like, I can even see it going that far.
That could have been an option also.
Yeah.
Sorry. Christina, where are you going to go?
No, I'm just saying, I didn't think of that before, but that also could have been an option that she had.
Well, right.
Was for them both to go.
If Gypsy was going to, run away again, I don't know if Dee Dee thought that she was really going to get somebody to kill her. But if Gypsy was going to run off again, that was going to be it. If Gypsy's not going to go along with the show anymore, then she's not going to move to another place with me. She's going to try to, skip town and not go along with the move. Then it was going to be, okay, out. I think that she might have maybe lived for a few days just to get even more martyrdom and become the ultimate parent. Like, oh my God, my daughter is gone. Love me. I'm the best ever. And then end it. So that way she would have had that idea going to her grave that everybody thought that I was perfect. And
the perfect mom.
they're going to hang a picture of me somewhere over a fireplace and,
I'm going to get I'm going to get honored in the hospital. And what better way to live on, like a legacy in the hospital of this is the best mom ever.
Yes.
That's
it. Yeah. Don't go anywhere. The Good Wives will be right back. What if you could be a true crime detective right from the comfort of your own home? Dispatch is an interactive serial mystery that unfolds over several months. Imagine the experience of an escape room in your own home, a new kind of escape called Dispatch. It's a subscription box that is a step apart from everyday entertainment, better than a book, more engaging than television. Think of it as an immersive mystery where you wear the detective hat. The story begins with the first delivery, or dispatch, if you will. In it, you'll find physical clues that lead you to the web and back to the real world to unravel a mysterious crime. Grab a friend, the whole family, and your thinking cap, and get ready to put your heads together for one mind-bending ride, as additional details are revealed with every package. Check out the description for a special link to grab your dispatch box today and start your own true crime detectiving. We absolutely love hearing from our listeners, and we'd like to invite you to send us a question for us to answer or a case you'd like us to cover. You can do this in two different ways. You can send us a message right here at anchor.fm/truecrimewives, and we might play it live in one of our next episodes, or you can drop us an email at goodwivesdish, that's DISH, @gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
I remember you telling me something about a cult, and I remember you went and got me this article, and I'm going to read a little bit about it. So, back in the 80s, I know that there was this whole thing across the nation about satanic cults, and none of them were ever true. Now that looking back, they have no substantial evidence satanic cults actually existed or did anything. It was just this mass hysteria.
Well, a lot of times it's mainly because Louisiana is part of the Bible Belt too. And anytime anybody talks about anything that's non-Christian, people label that part of the cult and black magic and get all weird and react.
You do have to remember though that Louisiana is also very Santeria and voodoo and all of that.
Right.
So they've got a rich history there as well. But you guys were telling me that she had convinced the community that there was and so I'm going to read a little bit from the article, and then we'll go ahead and you guys can tell us how it all came about. So it says sheriff addresses rumored ritualistic activities, and in Terrebonne and I never can say it right. Say it for me. Lafourche, Sheriff Jerry Larpenter and Duffy Bro. District Attorneys Doug Greenberg and Francis Douglas, Chief of Houma Police Jack Smith, and Thibodeau Police Milford, and I'm not even going to try to say that last name, this a joint statement relative to misinformation being circulated in the area about Antichrist and satanic ritualistic activities. Rumors have been and are being circulated that animals and humans have been and are being sacrificed at rituals in certain locations of this area. Law enforcement investigation has found no credible evidence which supports the commission of any homicide crime of this nature. Animal cruelty complaints are being investigated at this time. Parents should not keep their children from attending school. No evidence has been found which indicates any present danger exists to children either on or off school grounds in relation to these alleged activities. It has always been and will be the policy of the agencies to make known to the police any mysterious or homicidal deaths, and there have been no such deaths determined to have factually occurred in relation to these matters. And then it goes on further to say the town of Golden Meadow is hosting an informational forum on cults and satanic worship May 5th at the Golden Meadow Middle School. Two professors from the University of Southwestern Louisiana will present data available on the issue as representatives of the Louisiana Department of Education. So you guys told me that that was basically like organized by Dee Dee and her mom, Emma. So how did that happen?
Well, all I know is, what I remember is that somehow, I don't know where the subject of it came up from, but I know Dee Dee used to like to watch The Lost Boys a lot. Okay. That was one show she was really, really into, that we've seen it hundreds of times.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember how it came about, but there was the subject of the cult was like all over the bio. Mm-hmm. And the leaders of the cult were, one of them worked for the police department.
That's what she was saying.
That's what she was saying.
Okay.
So if anybody would call to report it, nobody would believe them because the guy was a cop. He worked.
The main person in the cult was a police detective in the police department.
And she also alleged that the mayor was involved, right? Too, right?
Right.
Yes.
Like the mayor was involved. The mayor of Golden Meadow was involved. And
I remember, Suzette, were you in the car when she did the whole thing where she was like swerving and all of that, or was that Titania only?
No, that was me. Every time we would be in the car together, she would say, "Oh, can you grab my lip gloss out my purse?" And I'm like, "Well, here, just use mine because mine was the easier reach." She says, "No, I don't like the flavor you have. I want mine." So I'd have to dig into her humongous purse to find this lip gloss, and when I'd have my head down, she would swerve, and I'm like, "What the hell was that?" And she's like, "Oh, that car just tried to pull us off the road, make us go off the road. He almost hit us." And I'm like, "What car?" And then she looked in the mirror, "Oh, that black car back there." And then the next time we were in the car, it was the same thing, but it wasn't lip gloss, it was something else.
And this would happen all the time, but it was only happening when she was driving?
Oh, God, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then she would swerve again. And I was like, "What was that?" She says, "That car tried to run us off the road again." And I'm like, "Which car?" She says, "That white one or that red one or that whatever color was behind us." And I'm like, "How come my head's always down when this happens?" She says, "I don't know."
Did you tell?
Oh my God.
Did you tell them about the kids in the white gowns in the circle, in that there was a circle of in the park that was I can't remember what the word I want to say, that they had.
I forgot about that.
You know what I'm talking about?
And the animals that would go missing were only from her neighborhood.
Yeah, well, only from her neighborhood.
Only from her neighborhood.
Did they really go missing, or was she like just making it up?
Well,
I don't know. Probably she was just making it up because they said there was no evidence. So if there would have been real animals missing, they would have had evidence.
Wow.
But
and then you're saying that there was like some sort of satanic ritual. Is that what you're meaning, like Titania? Is that they were like for a satanic ritual?
Yeah, they had a satanic ritual where there were kids that would walk around in a circle in white gowns, and she saw it. She saw the kids walking in a white circle, and they had fire that they burned the circle in the gown, and the kids were walking around. And she said that that was part of the cult, and that they were trying to get her to join. I don't know. I'm telling you, she said crazy stuff. And we were so naive and gullible to believe her lies. You know, like we believed.
She did have books like that, witchcraft and satanic cult books in her closet.
So do you think she like really believed in that stuff, or do you think she was just like reading up on it so that she would be able to say stuff about it?
I think she was reading up on it to be able to say
stuff about it.
Yeah,
that's interesting because that's kind of what she did later on when she was doing the stuff with Gypsy. I mean, they found all those books in the house about, you know, all the different types of illnesses that Gypsy had. So it seems like that's a pattern. You know, she'd read something and figure out, and then that's what the story would become. You know,
because I found I was sleeping over at her house one night on a weekend, and I was waiting for her to take her shower to get ready, and I was just waiting in her room for her. She was taking a while, so I saw some books at the top of her closet, and her closet she didn't have a door. She had a shower curtain. That was the door to her closet.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like open. The shower curtain was pushed to one side, and I was just looking at the top of her closet and looking like at her clothes and stuff, and I saw some books. So I grabbed them, and it was witchcraft and like cults and stuff like that. There were like, I think like 3 or 4 books. And I was like, oh my God, why would she have that in her closet and at the top of her closet?
Mm-hmm.
So I questioned her about it when she got out of the bathroom, and she's like, oh, it's just, that's just nothing. It's nothing. Yeah. And I'm like, well, why would you have those books? I think she got them from the library. I think she had checked them out from the library. And I just, like, why would you have that? She said, oh, that's nothing. Don't worry about it.
Surprising. I have another library story that I have to tell later. So, yeah, the library is a popular place for her. Okay, and then there's a little bit darker thing. So the cult thing, like, did it just fade away? Did it, like, stop? After that night that they had the big thing in the town hall, what happened after that?
Nothing really. I mean, I don't remember hearing anything more about it.
Wow.
Too much after that, because like I wasn't gonna go to the meeting because I told my mom about it, and she's like, "Oh, that's nonsense. We don't have to go."
Right.
You know, there's no such thing as that. That's how my mama felt. Well, I told Dee Dee I'm not going to the meeting because my mama doesn't want to go. She said there's no such thing as that, and it's nonsense. Well, her mom called my mom and told her that we had to go. We ended up going, and all they did was tell us like how to protect your kids from that, and if we see anything suspicious to call the cops. And that was it, and what to look for.
And so then it just went away after that.
I think one of the telling signs of the early times was when Dee Dee really wanted to become that spokesperson and start making the accusations of other people. Like when she started accusing there being a satanic cult in the area.
I know. Like, satanic cracks me up. Like, I mean, that was a problem in the 80s. I remember it like it was an epidemic across the country. Like, oh, there's a satanic cult and they're sacrificing babies, and you know, and it was like, but nothing ever came of it. Like, there never was ever anyone. There was never anything proven about any of them, and it just cracks me up that like she even Like, for the fact of her to latch on to that is absolutely insanity to me. Like, she's, I mean, what goes through a person's head to think that? Oh, there's satanic cults around. I know it would be really fun if I, made a satanic cult here and tried telling people that there's a satanic cult here. Like, what did she think she was going to get out of that?
Just recognition.
Attention.
Right there. Attention. Recognition in the town that she was right or that she knew something. And if nobody was like, oh, well, I don't see any evidence, she probably would have been like, I saw them leave in their black car. Their license plate was XXX. Like,
well, I mean, she did, because she's like swerving off the road and Titania's looking down, or Suzette's looking down, and then she's like, they're like, what the hell happened? She's going, oh, you didn't see them run me off the road? Like, what?
Crazy pants.
She said that would be like every time she got in the car with her, it would be like, can you get my lipstick out of my purse on the floor? And Suzette would bend down to get it, and she'd be like, oh my God, you didn't see that black car right there try to run us off the road? And Suzette would be like, well, why does this happen whenever I'm not looking?
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, it's just funny. And then Suzette even said, like, she would claim that, like, all the dogs that were, there were dogs and cats going missing, but they were conveniently only on her street, like. I mean, can you imagine? And then let's take it even further, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to accuse someone of raping you. But I mean, and to be fair, it could be true, but really, I mean, with everything we know and the way that they describe her behaving afterwards, where she was still like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. He's here. Let's see if he'll buy us drinks and continue flirting with him because he's got money. Like, well, that's not how somebody who's been raped acts when they're around their rapist.
Well, right.
Yeah.
She was older. There wasn't, that I want to protect him kind of thing. No. You would have made the choice to not flirt with somebody that you're accusing of raping.
Right. And of course she won't go to the police, because one, the police officer is in the satanic cult. And two, he's not going to believe me because this guy has, he's a son of a prominent businessman. So, it just, the stories, the thing is that's what I have a hard time with, is these stories. Like, how does a person come up with all of this? Like, do you sit up at night thinking about it? Like, what should I do tomorrow? I think tomorrow I'm going to accuse someone of rape. That's totally what I'm going to do tomorrow. Or are you just in the moment and you're just like, yep, rape. He raped me. Yep, totally raped me. And to just go with it. Like, where is the mentality in this?
No, I think she probably had like a day planner. Or back in the day, a Rolodex. And,
your journal.
Right, like she's like, okay, well, 3 months from now on a Tuesday, I'm accusing this man of rape. But then I have to remember that, the following week on the Sunday, that there was church, but these people didn't go, so they were in the satanic cult. And
killing their dog while we speak, like,
right. It was written down. This what she was going to do. That way, she had time to write out a story for it and have it prepared, like a speech.
I think I would have loved to see this woman's journals.
Oh, I don't know if I would. I don't know if I want to look in the face of crazy.
I don't know. I'm into that shit. Like, that's what I want to know.
That's too much. There's a limit. I don't want to lose my own.
I don't know. Well, you're hanging out with us, Colleen, so I would say that maybe you already
probably
know. Just saying. We are looking into child abusers, serial killers. I mean, you gotta have lost a couple of marbles there.
I'm sure Tim would agree.
My husband is always like, God, you're just so morbid. Why do you like this stuff? I'm like, I don't know. Why do you like cars? I find that boring as crap. He's like, well, cars are interesting and purposeful. I'm like, well, so is not being murdered. So maybe I'll keep us all from being murdered.
Right? Tim always says considering that they should interview like me if somebody ends up dead. And I'm like, you know what? They won't have to interview me, okay? Like, I'm cleared I'm fine. I just know how to prevent getting serial killer murdered.
Right? I'm like, I'm the one who goes around every night. You think your husband is the one who goes around and locks all the doors at night? No, that's me. That's me that goes around and does all that. I check it like 90 times a night, because I'm like, I'm not going to get murdered in my sleep,
Right,
that's not happening to me.
I'm triple clicking like the lock my car button. Like, I need to watch the car lights, blink at me twice, and then I know it's really locked.
Right. That's crazy.
No one's hiding out in my back seat trying to get me.
I don't know. I would just really love to know what went on in her brain. Like, that's the thing. That's what I like about all of the true crime stuff. That's what I'm obsessed with, is understanding the why. And it's so hard, especially in this case. It's really hard to understand because I don't get the end game. I don't know where she thought she was going with this. I don't know. Like, it's hard. It's really hard, like, to figure this out. And the mind of her, to be a cog in that little wheel going on in her head. Whew. Whew. Man.
Okay, so to recap, so far we've heard about celebrity crushes and false celebrity relationships and mean girl tactics and satanic cults. But folks, it goes a little deeper than that. Dee Dee even alleged that the son of a prominent businessman in the community who went to school with her raped her. And I'm going to let the girls tell you a little bit more about that.
Was very predominant in the community. They owned the telephone company. She claimed that, well, Suzette knows more about it. You tell them, Sue, what you know about it.
She had called me the next morning, all upset and crying that she got raped the night before. And she described the building where it happened at, and it was an old, like an office building with like an upstairs, but the upstairs, you got to the upstairs from the outside. And supposedly he brought her up there and raped her. And she was all upset, and I said, well, why don't you call the cops and go to the police and report him? She said, no, they'll never believe me because of who he is.
I see.
At the time, I believed her, but
like, that's what makes this so bad, is that, like, you just can't, you don't know when she's lying or not. And so, many people don't report rape because they don't think they'll be believed, but this is why. This is part of that, is people like this who make these stories up like this. And I watched a TV show on Netflix, which was amazing, called Unbelievable, and it kind of was along the same lines of this girl was so confused, and she told all these different whoppers of a story about it. And it turns out in this story, she actually was raped, but they didn't find out till many, many years later because he was caught in another, investigation, and they found it. But she had told so many lies that the police didn't believe her, and that's sad because it's things like this, where you're not sure. Like, she lies about so many things. Could this have happened? Yeah, maybe, but probably not,
Right.
And we had seen the guy out at the greenhouse where we used to go out at a couple of times after that. And she never acted like, oh my God, that's him. Like, never.
Like, she was never scared of him.
Yeah.
She was never terrified. She never, like, freaked out when she saw him again. So
she still hung around with his circle of friends. Every time she'd see them, his circle of friends, she'd go and flirt with them because they came from money, family of money. So she would go and she'd flirt with them and get them to buy her drinks and stuff. And because that was another thing we did, was we would if we were going out and we didn't have a lot of money to spend on drinks, we would try to get the guys to buy us drinks. And like if she would always get guys to buy her lots of drinks, and she said, well, you have to buy some for my friends too. So me and Ty would just sit back and just get the drinks.
So we've heard a lot tonight, but we couldn't let Ty and Suze go without hearing one last crazy story. But don't worry, this one's going to make you laugh.
Now, I remember you guys telling me something about, like, as an adult, you guys were going camping with the family and you guys became blood sisters. What is that?
Oh God. Oh my gosh. We became blood sisters. And that was like the three of us cut our fingers and we connected our blood together for the three of us to always be blood sisters. You know, always be. Yeah, we were adults. We were adults.
Like, I remember doing something like that at like 13. You know, like, yeah, I was kind of dumb, you know, but I mean, we've all done dumb things in our young years, you know, but I just thought that one was really funny. It cracked me up when you guys told me about that, because I was like, you guys were adults? I mean, I remember doing that at 12, maybe 13, but not at like 20.
We did the cuts and we did all of that, and we were going to be friends forever, and, you know, like, but we were
really stupid.
Don't go anywhere. The Good Wives will be right back.
Every great podcast needs a great website. Currently, our mother company, Mad Ginger Entertainment, is building their website using Bluehost. Bluehost is one of the best and most affordable web hosting platforms available. Plans start as low as $2.95 a month, and you can even integrate it with WordPress. So if you need your own website or affordable web hosting, grab our discount link in the description and get your podcast a bigger presence online at low costs.
Hey friends, it's me, Cajun Mama Ty, from the little town of Golden Meadow, coming to you with the Cajun French word of the day. Woohoo! If anyone out there in podcast land knows anything about Cajun French people, you probably have already heard this word. But if not, here it goes. Cajun French word of the day is bonjour. Bonjour is used as a greeting word. It means hello, good morning, or good day. Cajuns use this term when they walk in a room of a group of people, telling everyone in the room hello all at one time before they make their round, hugging and kissing on everyone in the room, because that's what Cajun people do.
I've always got a story. I got one more story, guys, and it is a whopper of a story, and it involves Bobby. Bobby tells a really crazy story about Dee Dee. And we all know, we've heard Rod talk about the fact that Dee Dee was into witchcraft. We've heard, some other people say things, and she had a pet, she wanted to have a pet tarantula and all these different stuff. But here's, and you can think of that in a lot of different ways. Like some people, maybe she just was, into the stuff that was in the area, like into Santeria, because that's part of the culture down there, right? Or maybe she just wanted to embrace it or learn more. But here's the crazy story, and this is always got a crazy story. So Bobby tells a story of an aunt that lost a baby, and he's over there, and Dee Dee has this bowl, and supposedly she's saying that the bowl holds the fetus, like this unborn fetus. I think that's total hogwash, but here we go. So she's telling him that there's this unborn fetus in this bowl, and she's like performing this ritual, and she's like chanting to it, and then she pulls out like a bag of oranges, and this is the craziest, weirdest thing. I don't even know how this segues to each other, but like she pulls out a bag of oranges, and she's like carrying the bag of oranges, and she's like talking to the bag of oranges, and then like squishes the bag of oranges and like pours it out over the baby that's supposedly in this bowl. And this is what is happening. And this is the crazy of Dee Dee. Like the total craziness of this. Like we hear other stories, but this one takes the cake, I think.
Now, you know, if you would have told me this story about anybody else, I would be like, what the hell are you, what? But I'm like, oh yeah, Dee Dee, bag of oranges, bowl with a fetus. Yeah, sounds like a regular Tuesday night.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised at all by what you're saying.
Right, there's not much in this case that really can surprise me. Like, you'd have to tell me that she then ate the fetus. Like, that would surprise me. Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. She might have. I mean, they were oranges, so I mean, maybe she spiced it up. I don't know.
She was marinating it or something. Like, I don't know. There was a recipe.
And she used them in like a pie or some fish. Just citrus.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. Like, who comes up with that? Like, I'm gonna put a fetus in a bowl and chant and in voodoo, and oh my god, like just the nutsness of this. And it's not the only time I've heard that story. I've heard another story where Gypsy talks about something of them doing like a ritual like that in the backyard. And I don't know what the hell was going on there, but I mean, so it's not isolated. So
messed up.
But I mean, it does show this patterns of behavior. You know, like the whole thing with this is basically all the little stories we've told tonight comes down to patterns of behavior. And you can see that this was long standing with her. I mean, it all just speaks to patterns of behavior. Like what we're seeing here is basically that, you know, it started off at a very young age and it just continued to grow, you know, into what we ended up with Gypsy. And I don't know if it was like a toe in the water and then, okay, I'm going to put my whole foot in. All right, I'm going to go my legs in, and then I'm neck deep. I don't know. But definitely patterns of behavior. Don't you guys agree?
Oh, yeah.
100%.
That's what makes it so much more frustrating to me, because this is not, it wasn't like a spontaneous overnight, she started doing this. Like, this is something that you can track back to the time she was a teen or a child. So it makes it more frustrating to me. Like, what, nobody stepped in, nobody at all in their life said, no, I have to do something to stop this. I don't think I would be able to sit back and know, like, okay, my friend, there's something off about her. If you question her about what she's doing with her kids, she picks up and moves. I don't think I'd be able to sit back and either not confront her or not go to a family member and say, look, we have to do something, an intervention, something is wrong here. How did nobody, like, was she that scary and that intimidating that everybody whose path she crossed was like, oh no, I'm not saying a word about this lady? It's
well,
like,
I know that the siblings were like, anytime they said anything to her, she would disappear for months,
and
years,
further
sometimes.
and further away.
Yeah, and I get that. Like, I do understand that to an extent, but then again, it's like, I mean, this is one of the things I've said the whole time is in these women, and that the pattern of behavior is clearly there well before all the medical stuff starts or they have their kids or anything. And one of the things that, you know, I think back to Gypsy, she wrote me this letter, you know, when she found out that her mom was going to be more of a focus of the series that we were working on. She said, I hear that you're putting my mom as the main character, and I'm just asking that you don't over sensationalize her or make her into more than she is. I mean, she was still my mom, you know, and one of the things I answered back to her was, honey, that's not what I want to do at all. what I want to do is show the very reality of what happened, and that each one of you was put on this course in a weird way. But here's the thing, like, I believe that she showed sociopathic tendencies as a child, but because we don't talk about those things not even now, but especially not back then, that nobody helped her. Like, you can have a child and know that they have these tendencies, and if you give them the right tools, sociopaths can still go on to live normal lives and be successful. In fact, most of the Fortune 500 companies are run by sociopaths because they have an obscene drive, which we see here, obscene drive, a really, they're ruthless. They don't have the emotional attachment to people like other people have. So they do really well, but they only do really well when they're taught to use those type of tendencies in a positive way, instead of becoming, a crazy serial killer, or like this, a mom who, just abuses anyone and everyone, including her own child. I think this is preventable. I just think we don't want to acknowledge it.
Right.
And that to me is more upsetting. And like Colleen and I've talked about, when we answered one of the questions that's coming up here, man, like, if you look at the Lacey Spears case, the same thing. She was sociopathic and always lying and telling these wild whopping stories before she ever had any kids. And that death was 100%, the death of Garnet Spears was 100% avoidable. And nobody did anything. And the same thing here. The same thing with Gypsy. If anybody had even one time really questioned it, because I don't give a shit if you just want to write Munchausen by proxy in a file and call it a day. That is not doing your damn job. I'm sorry. I don't give a shit whether you think that you're not going to be believed, or whether you think that the community is going to be wrong to you. There's a child's life at stake.
Right, you're a man.
I don't care.
Reporter. As soon as you suspect something, it is your duty to report. And when there are hundreds and thousands of medical professionals, social services workers, even general public that has medical or social training, or have even been to college at any level, then you know that you have a duty to report. And so, Gypsy's case, to an extent, especially on the doctor's end, and then especially with the Lacey Spears case, 100%, 1,000% preventable.
Right. But when we get into medical stuff, and there's been some new stuff that's come to light with that, and I can't even wait to talk about it until the next episodes. I'm super excited about it. And it's not like I'm excited, like, oh my God, I really love this. I'm excited to talk about it because I think it's a piece of the puzzle that we've been missing this whole time, and I can't wait to talk about that. So you guys are going to want to really tune in to episode 4, where we 3 we start to get into the medical. 4, we're going to wrap up the medical in Louisiana, and then we'll head on. But there's a lot of stories left to tell. I mean, I think there's more stuff to hear about, things that people knew and didn't do anything. I mean, I really truly believe that she was failed. And no matter what anybody thinks about Gypsy today, whether you're for Gypsy, against Gypsy, whether you think she manipulated Nick, didn't manipulate Nick, the fact of the matter is the only reason we're here today talking about this is because of Dee Dee and all the people who did absolutely no things to stop it.
Thanks so much for tuning in and dishing true crime with the Good Wives. Don't forget to join our Patreon member club to get the full recipe shared tonight, inside documents and pictures from the case, bonus mini podcast episodes, live YouTube discussions, and exclusive invitation to our discussion group on Facebook, and get some amazing Good Wives merchandise. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at True Crime Wives, and for more inside information, check us out on YouTube at Murder by Design. where we're currently talking about a few different true crime cases. From bullying murderers to serial killers, we dish it all. Have a good one from the Good Wives, serving up true crime one dish at a time.